And I'm going to be using Rubadoo here, which is one of the options for your mix that you can use. And we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff. Not everything today. What I'm going to do is on Monday, I'm going to go through everything one last time. So, because you have next week to work on stuff. But, Kason, yeah, don't worry. Well, those pearly lights will be here in soon enough. But what we're going to do here is we're going to start off with talking about some subgroup mixing. And this is a PowerPoint that I have. It's up on Canvas, so you can have it yourselves. But this is a good thing to get started with, I think. So subgroup mixing allows grouping of similar instruments within a mix. Why should we learn it? Because faster mixing equals more money, because it makes a complex mix easier to handle, and it allows you to apply effects to groups of instruments. Now, what do I mean by, let's go back to this first one here, allows grouping of similar instruments within a mix. What's up, James? I see you. Where are you? There you are. So what do I mean by this? What I mean is, so we have here, I've got this mix of, this is Rubadoo, and let me go ahead and make these tracks bigger here. Okay, so we can see all the tracks. And so all our drums are here, so I'm going to go ahead and color these real quick. All these drums are going to get a color. I'll go to my color palette, make sure it says tracks, and all my drums I usually like to have orange. And then we got our bass guitars here. I'm going to make these red. I'm going to pull these over here so they're next to my drums. And then I got my acoustic guitars, and all the acoustic guitars here are going to be kind of a brownish color. And then I've got my electric guitars, and we'll make these similar-ish, but like more of a mustardy color. And then I've got all my vocals, and my vocals, I usually have these be a green color. So I'm gonna have my verse vocals here, be this kind of dark green here, and the bridge vocals will be a slightly less dark green, and then my chorus vocals will be a slightly different shade of green here. So I've got all my tracks here color-coded here, so I can easily see what's going on. Now this is not grouping, this is just color coding them. And then the last thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to add in a master fader. So we have that there. Now to subgroup these, just real quick, since I've got all these drums and they're all the same color, I'm just going to go ahead and quickly do a subgroup, and then we're going to talk about how I'm doing the subgroup. So I'm going to go ahead and make a stereo aux channel. I'm going to call it drum group, and I put it right there. And now I'm going to highlight my drums, and one by one I'm going to send them over to the track I just created, drum group. Boom. So go to my bean can here, and you don't have to select the tracks individually. Actually, I can just go ahead and click on the output and go to each one, select track. And when I do that, you notice that what it did when I did that very first one is on my drum group here, it set the input to be drum group, and it set the output of each of these to be drum group. Now the reason why I call this drum group, this bus, is because the track is called drum group. I named the track the first thing I did. And this is, I'm kind of skipping a couple steps here, just to kind of go quickly. We're going to go back once we talk about this stuff in more detail here in a little bit. We're going to go back and do this a slightly different way, but I just want to show you a way to do this, because there are a couple different ways to do this stuff. So I'm just going to keep going here with each of my drum tracks. I'm just going to go ahead and select track, drum group here. And I could also, I don't have to select track, drum group. I could go to bus, and I could go to bus down here and select my drum group right there. Boom. Depending on, it's really up to you how you want to do it. You could go from track, or you can go from bus, like that. Yours is going to look maybe slightly different. It depends on what song you're doing. It'll look a little bit different. So here we go. There's all my drums. Now, also, I want to just take these drums. I'm just going to set the input for these drums to be no input. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and set everything, all my tracks, to be no input here, because all these audio tracks, they don't need to have any inputs, and I just want to have everything be nice and clean for myself. So I'm just going to hold down Option and click on any track and set it to no input. And now they all say no input. Now you'll notice that these here say no input, but they're all stereo. But these over here, these vocal tracks, do not say no input. They kept the thing. The reason why they did it was because Pro Tools cares if you are on a stereo track or a mono track. So I'm on, these were all stereo tracks, so it shifted them all. But these mono tracks did not shift, so I have to hold down Option again and go over here and select no input, and now it changed everything. In general, Option should go ahead and set everything up for you, but in Pro Tools, it's a little bit weird. Y'all probably figured that out by now. Pro Tools does things its own way. So I've got my drum group here, and I just went ahead and set the drum group input back to drum group because we want things to be going. And you'll see here my output here says bus 1 and 2. Now that's kind of a weird glitch. Whoever had this track, whoever saved this track, they had it set up so their tracks are always going to bus 1 and 2, which is not a horrible way to do it, but it doesn't really work for us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to setup IO, and in here I'm just going to set everything to default. So all this here, I'm going to hold down Option and click Default, and now everything should be set up for my defaults. Did it do it? It did not do it. And we've got here Mac Mini speakers output. Let's see what's going on here. It's got it's not something. Oh, it's because my playback engine is set for my Mac Mini speakers, so I'm going to go ahead and set that for my Universal Audio Thunderbolt and hit OK. And it's going to tell me there's some weird things that can't be mapped. You can just hit no for that. Don't worry about it. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to go ahead and change this away from. I'm going to set everything to no output for a second here. Everything's set to no output. Good. Okay, and I'm going to just go in here to my I/O system, setup I/O, and change that. And the reason why I did that was so that it would go ahead and use my defaults for things a little bit more easily. And my output here, your monitor path and the audition path, all that stuff should say the correct thing at this point. It should be good. Okay, so yeah, we should be good here. All right, so now I'm going to go back and do my drums again. And I'm going to click on all of them. I'll hold down Option and Shift, and this is going to do everything at the same time. I'm going to send them to that drum group there. Now they all are going to the drum group right here. The drum group needs to go to my main output, monitor left and right. And let's have all these other tracks go to my main output as well for now. So I'm just going to select them all. I'm going to hold down Option and Shift and set them to my main output. And the master set to my main output. Now, you might be thinking, wow, Tony just did a lot of stuff, and am I going to have to do all that stuff? And the answer is, it depends on the track. It depends on where you're getting the track from. And now, everything is finished behind me, I believe. Hold on one second. All right, what's up, y'all? I just had to have a discussion with my girlfriend who's here today. She took the day off, but the dog is sitting next to me, and I think she's taking oh. Anyway, sorry about that break there. She wants to hang out with the dog, and I wanted to hang out with the dog, but the dog is sleeping, and she's going to go outside for a second, so I don't want to wake the dog up right now. Anyway, back to this. So basically, what we're talking about here is it depends on where you're bringing your track over from. So in this case, with this particular track, it was coming from somebody who had their system set up in some kind of weird way. And not weird, it's not bad, it's just not normal. So we have to set it up in a way that works for us. So every time I'm making a new track, it doesn't say bus 1 and 2, and that's what we just did there. We go to setup IO and put everything to the default settings, and the default settings are going to be default based on what your current audio interface is that's connected to your computer and what you have set up in your playback engine. So that's why we just did all that stuff there. It's not something you're going to have to do all the time, and if you're creating the tracks yourself, you definitely don't have to do it. But it is something that you know, if you're working with other people in other studios or working on projects here at school, you might have to do it somewhat. The other thing I want to do real quick, actually, while I'm thinking about just cleaning this up, is I need to get rid of these inserts F through J. If you're working on a MacBook Pro or something like that, you're not gonna have space enough for these on your computer screen. So I'm just gonna click down here in the bottom. I'm gonna click down here in the bottom and select inserts F through J and just turn that off. So now we're only looking at inserts A through E and sends A through E, which is something that that I recommend that you do. It's so Kason, the pearly whites, hello. Eric says like making a template. It's not exactly like making a template. It's more like just working with somebody else's setup, because when you save your session in Pro Tools, it just takes all the inputs and outputs and just keeps them with the session, which is good and bad. It's cool because it means that if you know a setup that you're going to be using at school, like if you know you're going to be bringing stuff back to school, you can actually save a setup and have it already working from school, even though you're not using the school setup. You can have it set so it goes out to, like if you're bringing something into the audience, if you have the audience set up on your computer, you can have it so when you open up a session and you create a new session, you can actually have it using the audience setups that we have at school. It'll make things easier when you go into a studio, but it's also, there's a few shortcuts that I'm showing you that will also make things a bit easier for you. So not exactly like making a template. All right, so now we have all this here. I'm not going to move forward with this here until we go through the notes, because I really want to show you the notes first before we continue moving forward. So I just wanted to show you just real quick what we were doing here, that we're grouping everything together. So now all the drums are going to this drum group aux. I'm going to go ahead and solo safe this by holding an command and clicking it. And there we go. So now let's continue on with the notes here. So it allows grouping of similar instruments within a mix, which is what I just showed you here. And then faster mixing equals more money, makes a complex mix easier to handle, and applies effects to groups of instruments. Okay, which you're gonna want to do. All right. But before we talk about that, let's get back to talking about a couple things here. A mix is like a hamburger. Look at this hamburger. Oh, this hamburger looks amazing. Look at that. Oh yeah, yummy, yummy, yummy. We've got all this delicious stuff on this burger. You've got the sesame seed bun. You've got some jalapeno peppers. You got some bacon here. You got some chili, I guess. And then you got some meat, and there's some mayonnaise up there. And look, some onion rings. I guess they're onion rings. Some cheese. You've got some, Eric, I don't know. You're saying that's a discussion right there. Are you talking about the burger, or are you talking about the stuff we just talked about? We can talk about it definitely in Zoom. You've got some tomatoes here, some lettuce, more meat, some peppers, some onions, some tomatoes. You've got all this more meat, some more stuff. It looks like some more bacon. There's some fried things, some onions. You got some ham. Yeah, some ham. You got some ham. Looks like a little cordon bleu, maybe. Looks like a pickle. There's some pickle sticking out there. Some more bacon, right? Some more meat, some cheese, some tomatoes, more lettuce. Wow, look at this thing. It's definitely not photoshopped. And then some more ham and some fried chicken, just because you need fried chicken. And then, yeah, it's how you jalapeno. That's how you say it, right? Isn't that how you say it? Jalapeno. All right, and then you got some more tomatoes and some lettuce, and then some bun on the bottom. Now that is a burger. Oh, that's making me so hungry. Oh man, the funny thing is, I've been teaching this lesson for years now, and about 5 years I went to Berlin, and I went to a burger shop in Berlin called Lily's. I think it's called Lily's. I don't remember the exact name. It's like a woman's name. And they had burgers that looked like this. The burger was literally the size of like my girlfriend at the time's head. Now she's a tiny little Japanese girl, and so she has a small head. But Wahlburgers, I haven't. Let me see here. Yeah, but if you do this, sandwich faster, the second tomato is going to be falling. Oh yeah, this thing would fall apart in half a second. I don't know Wahlburgers. But anyway, so we got this hamburger here. This hamburger is amazing. If I do say so myself, it looks awesome. But every single part of this burger has to be made individually. So, boom. every part. So you got the meat, the bun, the cheese, the lettuce, the onions, tomatoes, ketchup, and the mustard. All right, so let's just break this down for a second. If we go back here and look at this burger, go zoom in on this. This meat did not start off looking like this. All right, let's start off with the meat. The meat. And this is like a Zoom discussion, but when we get to Zoom, I want to hear about what kind of burgers you like to make. But if you really think about the burger, the first starting point is the actual animal, the cow. And if you're going to go back to the source, a lot of people, they go to the store and they buy the meat and they get the meat for their burger and they're like, great, okay. But if you want to really do it like from the source, if you really care about your burgers, you're going to go out to a field and you're going to find a cow and you're going to look at that cow lovingly in the eyes. You're going to cup its head and you're going to say, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to eat you. And you're going to be delicious. That's what you do, right? And then you take the cow and you get a bolt gun and you blow right into the cow's head and you kill the cow and then you hang it up by its hind legs and you drain out the blood and there you go. Now you got a cow. You have to defur it, you have to take out the bones, the ligaments, all these things. And when you think about it like that, this is where a lot of people are like, I don't think I need to do all that stuff, right? But that's how you do it. I could tell you stories about my childhood, not with cows, but imagine coming in late to this lesson. You'd probably be lucky if you came in late to this lesson. Or yeah, I guess if you just came in right there. Awkward sentence to start with. So, yeah, but growing up, I used to go hunting with my dad, and we used to hunt deer in deer hunting season. And it was, it was an interesting experience. So, you got your cow. Same thing with a pig, same thing with a chicken. Chickens are a little bit easier to catch, whatever. But my point is that if you're really doing this from the beginning, you have to get the cow, and you have to get the right kind of cow. I still eat meat a bit. I don't eat meat as much as I used to, but I try to be more conscientious about where I get my meat. So I don't just go to the grocery store and get the meat because I'm not really into the idea of like mass-produced meat anymore. I'm more... What did you learn at SAE today? Burger. How to kill cows. I actually prefer to get my meat from a place that's sourced locally from upstate New York, and they get one cow a week and they cut up the whole thing and they use all the parts of the cow, and it's like a local place. It is more expensive, but I feel like, I don't know, man, like a cow from a factory for me just doesn't do it for me anymore. So I'm a little bit more picky about it. So once you get the meat, and you get the meat, you grind up the meat, and you get all the meat and you grind it up, and you got your hamburger meat, then what do you do? And a lot of people have different places, things that they do. They have different places to start from. And this is like, some people add in just some salt and pepper and call it a day. Some people add in, like I like to, one trick I've learned recently is Lipton onion soup mix. My friend did that. I was just like, what? That's amazing. And I put that in there. Sometimes I'll put in a lot of pepper. What is up, Regan? How you doing? So let's see here. Some obviously salt and pepper, some hot sauce. I'd like to put diced onions in there as well. Everybody has their thing, So that's the meat right there. That's the meat. That's what you do, and everybody's got their thing. Their Worcester sauce, stuff like that. How about the bun? Who likes to make bread, right? And this is like some people, very few people actually. A lot of people make their hamburger patties from scratch, but very few people actually make bread. Bread is a little bit tricky to make, although more people now, since we had this lockdown earlier in the year, a lot more people started making bread, like especially sourdough bread became a thing. But some people make bread. I do not make bread. I tried banana bread once and I made it and I was like, I did that, yay. My father used to make bread all the time, and so I used to always watch him making the bread, and it was, it was a whole thing. He used to make his bread for his pizza dough. He used to make his own pizza dough from scratch, and it was a whole thing. So making bread is a whole thing, but of course, even if you don't make your own bread, you might choose what kind of buns you like to have. So you could go with Wonder Bread and have that kind of a burger, which like my childhood growing up in the Florida suburbs in Orlando. With my mom, who didn't know a lot about food. Or you could go with I like to use the English muffins is what I like to use for my buns these days. So you can go all over the place. Brioche buns. I love brioche. You know, super fancy for buns, but tastes great. Cheese. The cheese. How do we make the cheese? Well, cheese is you got to milk a cow, and then you got to, you got to, I don't know, let the milk sit around for a while. I have no idea. I've never made cheese. I did watch a video on how they make cheese once. And it was very interesting, but it was a while ago and I've forgotten. But not many people make cheese. I know it takes a while to make cheese. Lettuce. Plant some seeds, grow some lettuce, or just go to the store and get the lettuce. It could be easy or it could be more tricky. Onions, grow some onions, pick them. I grew up on a farm, partially on a farm in Georgia, and I spent my summers on a farm every summer, and I used to have to pick the lettuce and pick the onions and pick the tomatoes, all that stuff. I hated it. Tomatoes, I don't even eat tomatoes. But again, you have to grow them and pick them, and there's a lot that goes into it. Ketchup, what is in ketchup anyway? What is it? It's not tomatoes. It doesn't taste like tomatoes. I don't actually eat tomatoes, like raw tomatoes, but I love ketchup. Well, I like ketchup. I love tomato sauce. I love tomato soup. What I realized is that it's just the sweetness of the tomato that I don't like. And I don't love the texture of the seeds, but recently I've been taking that out when I cook with tomatoes. And I take out the whole inside. I just use the outside of the tomato, and it works a lot better for me, for my guacamole and stuff like that. But ketchup is like mostly sugar. It's not like, especially if you're buying Heinz ketchup or whatever, like the main ingredient's like corn syrup or something like that. It's disgusting. If you make ketchup yourself, you can make it more healthy. My ex-girlfriend used to make ketchup, and it's really easy to make, but it's very different. It ends up being very different from what you have at the store. It also turns brown. It's not red normally. Mustard. Mustard comes from seeds. Some people knew that. Some people didn't. But it's a seed thing. All right, so this is all your different parts. Now, when you put it all together, all those parts, they come together and they form a burger, right? You don't say to your friends, hey, let's go out and get some meat, bun, cheese, lettuce, tomatoes, ketchup, and mustard. You don't say that. You say, let's go out and get a burger. And they're all that parts together. All these individual parts become a new thing. So if you say, hey, come to my house, and I'm going to make burgers today, it's not just throwing some, meat and, getting whatever bread and whatever meat, whatever, just like putting it together and mixing it all up and boom. You're making each one of those parts separately. And you're making sure that each one of those parts would actually be pretty good on its own. So you're picking a cheese that you like. You're making the burger with care. You're getting the bread that you want. You're not just going to use any kind of wilted lettuce and, onions that are brown and tomatoes that are green and whatever. You're going to use specific things for this. And then you're also going to put on the ketchup and the mustard. You're going to put on salt and pepper, all this stuff here, right? So this is a burger. And I hope you're all with me on this. Same thing with a mix, with a song. Every part of a mix must be built up separately. So for a song, you have your drums. And for the drums, you have a kick, snare, hi-hat, cymbals. You got your bass, you got your keys, you got your guitar, you got your vocals, or you have your synthesizers and stuff like that. But when you're listening to a song, you don't say, yo, did you hear that new drums, bass, keys, guitar, and vocals from Kanye West? Like, nobody says that. We say, did you hear that new song? Did you hear that new track? Did you hear that new joint? Did you hear that new something from somebody, right? It's a song. It's a thing. It's one unit. But it's made up of all these individual sections and parts. And each one of these sections has to be put together with care. So, for example, drums. Drums is not just drums. It's not just one thing. Drums is a whole bunch of individual parts put together, and it becomes drums. So within the drums, we have the kick, snare, hi-hat, and cymbals. The kick, it can be a sample or it can be a live kick, and if it's a live kick, then you have to have a microphone on it or 2 microphones. Snare drum, same thing. Hi-hats, you got to have a microphone there, and cymbals, overhead microphones, right? Or samples. The bass, a lot depends on your bass sound. What kind of wood is the bass made from? What kind of amp is it going through? What kind of microphone are you using to pick it up? Same thing with these drums. The kick drum, if you don't play drums, you probably don't think about all this stuff, but the kick drum, your drum kit, the wood that you make the drum kit from, it matters. I don't know if anybody in this class is like a really experienced drummer or like a really good drummer and they care about this stuff, but if you are, you know what I'm talking about. The drum head, what you hit the drum on the drum, what you're hitting, it matters. You know, the types of sticks you use, they matter. They've got brushes that are look like kind of weird paint brushes. That changes the sound. So you got to think about this stuff. Everything has its own sound, and our job is to capture that sound or to make that sound into something that we want to hear. You got your keys, what keyboard you use. Case and drummer, right? Okay, so during Zoom, let's talk about what drums you have, and let's hear about your experience with drums. The guitar, you know, same thing as the bass. The wood matters. How the guitar is built matters. What kind of strings you have matter. Your vocals matter. You know, you don't want me singing unless you want me to sing about my dog and my cat. But you really, you know, you've heard me sing. You probably don't want me singing. There's probably way better singers or hip hoppers in the class. And that's what you're choosing. You're making sure to choose those people, and you're making sure you capture it with the right microphone. Okay, so this stuff all is important. So what we're going to do is we're going to subgroup mix this stuff to make things a little bit easier to deal with. Now we just looked at this here. Let me just go back here. A hamburger has got all these individual pieces here, and all the stuff becomes one unit. So think of the meat, the bun, the cheese, the lettuce, all that stuff as individual microphones that are recording individual instruments. And the burger is the unit as a whole, and that's what a subgroup is. So think about the meat, for example. The meat, as we mentioned, you're gonna flavor the meat. You're gonna put some salt and pepper in it. You're gonna, all that stuff. You're gonna flavor the meat. But then that meat goes into the burger. So the burger is the subgroup. It's the group of everything together. But the meat still has its own salt and pepper on it. And some people, you know, they'll have, you know, they'll put the seasoning into the meat and they'll cook it, and they'll still put some salt and pepper on the burger when they serve it, because it tastes different that way. When you cook the spice into the food, it tastes different than when you just put the spice on top of it, because it hits our mouth differently. Well, the same thing is going to happen over here. When we talk about our drums, our kick drum, we might put some compression, EQ, and stuff like that on the kick drum. We might put some compression and EQ on the snare drum. But then we have all the drums together, and we might put a compressor on that drum group as a whole, because that's going to change the sound of the drums as a whole. Because once you put a compressor on the drums entirely, the kick drum now is going to affect the snare drum, right? So you also will put an effect on the mix as a whole as well, because all those instruments together are all going to be affecting each other. And that's what we can do here with our subgroup mix. So the subgroup mix we have in here, microphone 1, 2 on the kick, snare drum, hi-hat. These are all microphones across the top. We got a high tom, we got a floor tom, we got our overhead mic, we got our overhead left and right mics here. Now these two kick drum mics, let's say we've got one on the inside and one on the outside. The inside mic will capture the smack of the kick drum, the beater hitting the skin of the drum head, right? But the outside microphone, microphone number 2, will pick up more of the thump, boom, 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 boom of that kick drum. Well, we want to balance those two together and mix them into one kick drum. Now, this is what we call a close mic'd drum kit. You don't always have to have 2 microphones on your kick drum, but sometimes you do have 2 microphones on your kick drum, depending on how much you want to tailor that sound. Okay, so we got that here. We got our kick group here, and we got our toms. Maybe we group the toms together. Our overheads, maybe we group the overheads together. These blue lines here each represent an audio channel. So if it's got 1 blue line, it's mono, and if it has 2 blue lines, it's stereo. So we're going to follow these blue lines coming down here like this, into these drums down here, and see how these things get into these groups like this. So these 2 kick drums, these are both mono, they're going to come down here, and they're going to go to the kick group. The kick group is still going to be mono because there's no reason to make it stereo. So this is like an aux channel here. This aux channel would be mono. So the toms come down here. They're mono tom drums, but look, these are stereo here because toms, we probably want to pan 1 tom drum over here, 1 tom drum over here, so they get a little bit of spatial awareness going on. Same thing with our overheads. The overheads are mono, but look, they come down here stereo because the overheads, we're going to pan them left and right. So all this stuff is going to come down here to our drum group. There's our drum group. Now let's go for a second, go back over here to our bass. Maybe in this case the bass is only one bass guitar, so it doesn't go into any kind of group. Or maybe it doesn't, you didn't split it, or it doesn't have like a direct in and then it's got also the amp like that. You know, maybe it doesn't have something like that happening. Then we got our guitars over here. The guitars, we have the verse and we have the chorus. Maybe the verse has one set of guitars going, maybe the chorus has a different set of guitars going. Maybe they're playing slightly differently, like that. So the reason why I have it like this is because it can show you, even though guitars are the same instrument, we might group them slightly differently because we want our guitar verse over here and our guitar chorus over here into slightly different groups. Then what I can do is I can take, okay, the verse guitars are too loud, I can turn them down just with one fader. So then all the guitars are going to come down here into the guitars group. Then we have our keyboards over here, and the keyboards are going to come straight down. Now, before we go on to our vocals, I just want to move my screen back over here like this and come straight down, because we can see all of these signals are going into the instrument mix. They're all going into the instrument mix, and everything is stereo still, and the instrument mix is going into our main mix. This is going to be your master output. Your master fader is like the main mix right here. So this here would be another aux track that would be our instrument mix. Okay, now let's go back up here to the top, and we're going to keep going over here to the right to our vocals. The vocal layer, we got maybe vocal verse layer 1, verse layer 2, verse layer 3. Maybe we're doubling up the verse. Same thing with our choruses, chorus layer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can see there's different amounts of layers here. That's okay. You can have as many or as few as you want. And then all of these are mono, and they're all coming down here into our vocal verse group, and this one here is coming into our vocal chorus group. Two separate groups so I can balance between them. And then we're going to come down here, and these are going to go into our vocal group. Now, the reason why we want to have a vocal group separate from our instrument group, here's our instrument group down here, instrument mix is here, and the vocal group is over here. The reason why we want to have this separately is because we want to be able to balance between our instruments and our vocals. At the end of the day, we want to create a mix that's a nice balance between all the vocals and all the instruments. So balance between that, and then everything is going to come down here to our main mix. The main mix, our master fader, comes to our speakers, and then we get our little happy dude over here. Chillin'. All right, nice. And that is a subgroup mix. That's how we mix together everything. That's an example of how you would use subgroups in your session. All right, so how do we create a subgroup mix? This is getting into, I showed you earlier how to do it, and I kind of went through it very quickly, but this is step by step by step, okay? So first of all, you decide which tracks you want to group together. So I'm gonna go over here, and let's go over here to my vocals. All my vocals are green. You can see, actually this guitar, I'm gonna change this guitar because that's like, looks a little bit like a vocal color to me. We're going to change that over to, here we go. That's definitely not a vocal color. Okay, so our vocals are over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new track here. I'm going to decide which ones I want to group. Well, I want to group all these together, but I want to group these verse vocals first. Because remember in our picture here, we had our verse vocal group and we have our chorus vocal group. Well, in this case, we have 3 different groups of vocals I want to have, because I got my bridge vocals, I got my verse vocals, and I got my chorus vocals. Okay, so we're going to group all those separately. So decide which tracks you want to group, and we're going to create a new aux track. Make sure that aux track is stereo. So I'm going to go ahead and Command-Shift-N to create a new aux track. I'm going to make sure it is stereo aux, and I'm going to call it verse group. I might call it vocal verse group. Boom. There it is, vocal verse group. Next, we're going to set the outputs so they all lead to the aux input. Okay, so our aux track here, we have to set up an input. Let's just call it bus 1 and 2 for now. And all these three here, verse vox 1, 2, and 3, all three of these are going to go to that bus 1 and 2. Bus 1 and 2, bus 1 and 2, bus 1 and 2. Boom. Now I need to make sure that I solo safe this. This is not in the notes. I'm just going to hold down Command and click the solo button right there. Boom. You can see it grays out. Now what's going to happen is every time I hit play on these here, if I solo them out, it's still going to play over here. Let me just find a part of the track that has these in it. Oh, Johnny, what's up? It is in the notes. Solo safe? Oh, solo safe is in the notes eventually. Yeah. Sorry. It is in the notes eventually, but it's not in this PowerPoint right here. It's not in here. So then we set the track output so they all lead to the aux input. And we adjust the level. So
wanna feel your words, embrace me like skin across your bones.
All right, so what I'm going to do,
like skin across your bones.
I'm going to go in here.
Summer sun.
I'm going to pan these left and right. So I've got these two here.
Wanna feel your words, embrace me.
Okay, so these two here. So this is a harmony. I'm going to go ahead and relabel this. I'm going to call this one vocal verse harm. And this one's going to be vocal verse 1. And this is going to be vocal verse 2. Yeah, sorry. I don't usually put the VRS. I usually just put V. There we go. Boom. So vocal V 1 and 2. And I'm going to do them is I'm going to pan these left and right a little bit. Not completely left and right. Like this. I'm going to keep that harmony right in the middle.
Wanna feel your words.
There we go.
Embrace me.
Hear how nice that
like
sounds?
Skin across your bones.
And if I want to turn
like
up and down,
across your bones.
there we go.
I saw the summer sun rising without you.
Great. Okay. So we might need to make those a little bit louder later, but we're going to figure that out in a bit here. What I'm going to do here is we're going to go over here to these. Let's just see what we got here. So in the notes, adjust the volume on the tracks until you're satisfied with the mix. That is the mix of these individual here. And then finally, adjust the volume on the group track until it fits with the other instruments in the mix. We're going to skip that one for right now. You don't need to do all this stuff immediately. We're going to skip that one right now because I haven't mixed anything with this song yet. So that's what's going on there. And then I think we are finished. Yes, and Caden says, it also allows us to manipulate tracks under the subgroup. Absolutely, yep. You can manipulate your tracks, all that stuff there. So basically with the subgroup, it's like our hamburger, and the mix is like our hamburger. We have our individual things. So the subgroup, in this case, with our burger analogy, the subgroup would be like, let's see, it would be like, I guess it'd be kind of like the meat in that, you've got your meat, then you have all your individual spices, and all that stuff, you're going to mix it all together. You're going to make it so it tastes good. The meat should taste good by itself, but then we're going to put that meat into the burger itself. So the meat is the subgroup, and then the mix is the burger, all right? So keep it with that analogy. So let's just go ahead and do a couple more of these here. I'm going to do all my vocals right now. We have other tracks we're going to show you here in a bit, but I'm going to do all my vocals. So I'm going to go to my bridge, and first, notice what I'm doing. I'm clicking on the one on the right. I'm going to make a new track. Command-Shift-N, new track, stereo, aux, give it a name. I'm going to call it my bridge vocal bridge group, like that. There you go. It gave it a name. And now, remember on the last one it said bus 1 and 2. Well, this one here would have to be bus 3 and 4. There you go, bus 3 and 4. Boom. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my tracks here that are all this light green color. I'm going to go to bus 3 and 4 for all these. Bus 3 and 4, bus 3 and 4, bus 3 and 4. And it sets that over. Boom, like that. Now everything's going to bus 3 and 4 here. And again, make sure I solo safe this. There we go. So now I've got that. And if we want to listen to the vocal verse, bridge rather, it's that part right there. Solo these out.
Do your worst and I will bear it. I will bear it all.
Cool.
Just for you. Do your worst and I will bear it.
Now, if we want to keep the harmony thing going, I might put these out more on the side, the kind of same kind of spread that we had before, and put my harmonies more in the middle here.
Do your worst and I will bear it. I will bear it all. Just for you.
Okay.
Do your worst.
And now we can see,
I will
got everything right
bear
here.
it. I will bear it all. 'Cause the love is strong.
All right, there we go. Cool. So we got those bridge vocals, and now I'm just going to go down here. My chorus vocals. Make a new aux track. Make it stereo. And I did that by using shortcuts. Let me just show you that in slow motion here. So I hit Command-Shift-N here, and I'm not touching these here. Look, my mouse is over here. I hold down my Command key. I click to the right, my right arrow key, and I click down with my down arrow key. The right changes it to stereo, the down changes it to an aux channel, and then I hit Tab, and it moves over here. So now it's selected my name, and I'm going to call this one Vocal Chorus Group. Boom. There we go. Now, there's a lot going on here with the vocal chorus. There's all these tracks here. That would be a lot to have to click on and hand by one. So let me show you the shortcut. This is the shortcut I used for my drums, and so now I'm explaining it more. What I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all these tracks. I click on the first one and I hold Shift and I click the second one at the end over here, not second one, the last one at the end. Now I'm going to hold down Option and Shift, and I highlight and I click on any one of these tracks. It doesn't matter. I'll click one here in the middle and I send it to track. And I'm going to send all the way down here to the bottom, my vocal verse group here. Boom. There we go. And now it goes over to that one there. Make sure I solo safe. And then we should be good to go. Like that. So now if I solo these out, oh my goodness. I have to go through and click solo on each individual thing. Oh, that's so annoying, right? Well, the answer is no. You do not have to click solo on each individual thing. Remember, we do have Pro Tools groups. Okay, we haven't been talking about the Pro Tools groups, but we do have them. So our Pro Tools groups, remember, they're over here on the bottom left-hand corner. They're all highlighted. All my choruses are highlighted. So I'm going to hit Command G, and I'm going to call this one chorus, vocal chorus vocal like that. I'm going to give it an ID of letter C because the first word is chorus. Remember, that's something that I do. You don't have to do that, but I recommend that you do it. All the stuff that's in there is in there. That's great. I'm going to hit OK. And now I can turn it on and off by hitting my C key because my keyboard mode is here. Okay, and now I hit, whoops, turn that on, hit solo, boom. I'm going to loop this part here. And let's do our mix in here.
Walking up that mountainside at dawn, you said you...
All right, I'm going to rename these. Vocal, chorus, main 1. And this is my vocal, chorus 2. Whoops. So here's this one. Oh, and before you start doing panning, see how my panning is like everything, right? Well, I don't want it to do that. So I'm going to turn off my group here and pan these left and right. Boom.
Walking up that mountainside at dawn, you said you are the one I will follow.
Okay, this is my harmony. This is my harm A, we'll call it. So we'll call this vocal, chorus, harm A1. I'm just going to go ahead and highlight all that, paste it over so I can paste it, copy and paste it, harm A2. This one is my harm B1, harm B2. And I'm just copying and pasting stuff over. And the reason I'm doing this is to save time, because otherwise if you're going through and renaming the stuff, if you're renaming it, you're wasting your time. Learn how to work smart, not work more, right? Okay. Now, what else we got over here?
Walking up that mountainside at dawn, you said you were. Walking up that mountainside at dawn, you said.
Okay, so this is the harmony again. Harmony C1, harmony C2. And then where's all these other ones? These other ones are down here. Zoom in a little bit. Okay, cool. So we got that. I'm gonna pan these out. I'm gonna pan the main ones here. And or we should just, or am I doing it backwards? I don't know. I mean, it's up to you really. I might be doing it like maybe I should have the harmonies out to the side and the main vocals in the middle. Let's actually do that. We're not too far. Have the main vocals more in the middle, just a little bit. Those are very loud. So you could also subgroup these. You could also group these together as well, which I might do here, but I'm just gonna move ahead. So that's our harmony D1, harmony D2. And if you're thinking, wow, Tony, this is so much work. Yeah, it's a lot of setup. But once you get going with it, once you've done this setup, it's gonna make life much easier to mix everything. Trust me on that. You're really gonna wanna make sure you do all this setup stuff. Here we go, here's this. Put these a little bit more in the middle. The bus is confusing, I should wait till Zoom. Yep, sure, we can talk about the busing in Zoom. And this is finally our final harmony, A, B, C, D, E. E, 2, there we go. Makes such a faster workflow eventually. Yep, not the beginning part is like, wow, there's so much to do. Okay, so. Cool. Let's go over to the end here. There we go. Cool, now let's listen to the whole chorus. And let's do a little rough mix of things in here. Now, I'm gonna subgroup some of these together because it's just too much of. I'm not subgroup. I'm gonna group them in my groups over here. So I've got the main chorus group, but I'm gonna have this one be my. And I'm not gonna put these in the letters. I'm just gonna have them be whatever. Let's see here. Group. Yeah, I'm gonna have them be an ID too. So this is my vocal harm A. Oops, A. And I'm going to go ahead and copy this part here and put it in ID 2A like that, 2A like that, and hit go, boom, and this one here, harm B, put that in 2B, hit go, boom, C, oops, Command G to do that, and then this is C, hit go, Command G, this is D, and again, I know it takes a while, but trust me, you're gonna want to do this if you have a giant mix, especially if you have a giant mix. E, and it's gonna be 2 E. There we go. Boop. So you can see over here my groups like that, and I don't think, yeah, it doesn't let you turn that stuff on and off over here. You're just gonna have to turn it on and off here. But what happens is now I can move these here like that. I can suspend my groups by a Command Shift G. Right now I'm just subgrouping. I'm just doing Pro Tools mix groups for all these here, all these individual ones here. And I'm gonna go ahead and pan these out like this. Let's pan these out to the side. And the reason why I'm doing this is so that if I need to work on my mix, it'll make my life easier. So now I can just grab these two here and just move them. Okay, on these two here. Group. Vocal harm chorus. It's gonna be a 1, I guess. Nope, that's not. That's my vocal chorus group. Oh, and I used up my letters already, so I'm just gonna put F, whatever. Boom. So now I do have, I'm going to go ahead and turn these off like this. So I still have my chorus as a whole, so I can move these around. But I have my individual ones as well. So I could mess around with these if I wanted to. And they're just down here in the, like that. Okay. So I got these. Let's just listen to that chorus as it goes. I'm going to go ahead and mix it real quick. Just like
Walking up that mountainside at dawn, you said you are the one I will follow.
Okay. What I did by accident was I had the whole group on. If you saw that, I had the whole group on over here. And I don't want the group as a whole to be on. I want just the individual ones to be on. So there we go.
Walking up that mountainside at dawn, you said you are the one I will follow. So
Is that nice the harmony there?
And I've seen your face 1,000 times, but now I see what I could not before. So much more.
There we go. Sweet. Nice. I'm going to go ahead and suspend these. So cadence out of these for individual vocals. Yeah, these are all separate vocals. Yep. All right. They're all separate recordings. Everything's a separate recording. Absolutely. Okay. Let's go back and do the same thing. I'm going to subgroup these bridges together as well. So this bridge vox here, I'm going to go ahead and group and vocal bridge 1. Yep. So when I move the fader, it's going to move both the faders. It will but if you turn off your groups, it won't. So keep in mind, and this is something that you got to get used to, is that you have all your individual groups down here. You can turn them on and off. Okay. Actually, it's chorus vocals as a whole. Yeah, that's fine. C. The bridge vocals will be B. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get these here, and this is my, what did I call it? Vocal bridge 2. This is like the harm, I guess. Harm group. I'm going to rename this. I'm going to right click on it to rename it. I'm going to right click and well, not duplicate. Right click on it and select modify. And I can rename it. Let's call this one main. Now, whoops, and this one here, modify this, change the ID number because I forgot to do that. Oh, it won't let me. This is where I hate Pro Tools. Here, I'm gonna have to delete this one and make a new group here because the harmony, I forgot to do the right subgroup vocal harm group. Vocal bridge harm. There we go. And go down here to do this, boom. And this would take a lot less time if I wasn't like sitting here explaining it and answering questions, and like my attention is divided here. So please don't think that this takes, that you should be spending half an hour or 30, 40 minutes doing this. You shouldn't. This will just take you like 5 minutes to do it if you're doing it without answering questions and stuff like that. So we're spending a lot of time on it because it's important, but it's not the type of thing where you just spend this much time on it. So I'm going to put this here, this one down here. Now, I want to group all these bridge ones here together. So I'm going to go ahead and Command G. I'm going to highlight all of them. Command G, and it's going to be called vocal bridge all. And go under here B because it's for my bridge. Now we can see it's right there. Let me rename this here all as well. So now if I want to turn these on and off, I can just hit my letters here and I can if I turn it on, if I solo these, it'll individually like that, and then I turn it off and I can move individual ones like that, okay? And again, I know it seems like a lot that's going on. It kind of is, but you'll get used to it, especially just with practice. You just need to make sure you practice this stuff. Let me change the color here. Color palette, vocal bridge group. I want it to be the same as this one, so boop. And you see what I just did? I just highlighted the ones so that they are the right colors, and this one here. Cool. This color is a little bit too close to the other ones. There we go. All right. Now let's do finally the same thing with our vocals here, verse 1 and 2. These need to be grouped together. Vocal, verse, main. Boom. Now I can move these up and down together, and we're good to go there. All right. So now we're good, and I'm going to all my vocal verse group here is going to be V. Command G, vocal verse. ID is going to be V. Bloop. Yeah, all. Put that all in there. And now I can just solo and unsolo those like that. So we got that there, and that's V here. And I can move these groups up so I can see more. I can move that screen up like that. All right. Cool. Okay, so now we've got all my groups set up. And let me get my bridge ones unsoloed and the chorus ones unsoloed. There we go. So now I got that. So there's all my vocals. Now all my vocals need to be grouped together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make one more aux track here. Make sure it's stereo. Give it a name. Vocal group. And all of here, let me just show you something here. All these, I'm just going to highlight these individual tracks. I'm going to go show only. Up here, show only selected tracks. Now it's just my vocal groups here. These vocals, these groups here, see how they say monitor left and right? Well, I need them to say vocal group. So I'm going to highlight them, hold down Option and Shift, change it to track, vocal group, and now solo save the vocal group. So now all my vocals are going through this group right here. And this is when we can start to mix it with our instrument tracks and stuff like that. Okay, cool. I'm going to go back here to show all tracks. All right. There you go. So now I've got all these things grouped together. Let me change the color of my drum group to be more like my other ones. I usually change it so it's like sort of like the main color. So like these are orange, and this is like a slightly different orange, and these are red, and got my basses grouped together to be a slightly different red, because I want it to be similar but not exactly the same color of stuff, just so I can tell where my auxes are more easily, just so I'm glancing at it. Okay, so let's just go through and just do the other tracks real quick, because there's not that many. I got my two bass guitars here, so I'm going to go ahead and make a new aux track next to that one on the right. So I'm going to hit Command Shift in, hold down my command key, and hit the right arrow and the down arrows. Right arrows to make it stereo, down arrows to make it an aux track. Hit Tab, and I'm going to give it a name, bass group. Oh, okay. Yeah, I will need, okay, cool. So I'm going to give it a color, make it this darkish color, and these two here, Command G, bass, and I already used B. I didn't think about that. So, right, I used it for my vocal bridge, which was a mistake, but whatever. Okay, we'll just call it Z. What's next to B? Oh, N. We'll call it N. Doesn't make any sense. I will regret that later, but whatever. Okay, so I got that. Now my acoustic guitars, I'm gonna make a new aux track, Command Shift in, Command right arrow, Command down arrow, hit Tab, AC, guitar, group, boom, and highlight all my tracks, Option and Shift, any one of these, send it to that track acoustic guitar group. There we are, boom. And again, these ones here, I need to group these together individually. So highlight those, hit Command G, go down here to my twos, and call this AC group, AC1. And this one over here is, I should call it AC guitar actually. AC guitar 1. And this one here, same thing, Command G, put it down in the twos, AC guitar 2. There we go. Boom. All right. Got this, and we are almost good to go. All my acoustic guitars, Command G. Do I have an A left over? I don't, because I use that for vocal verse, man. Yeah, I wasn't thinking ahead. Here, we'll use G for guitars. There we go. That's what we want. There's another guitar in here, but I'll use I'll use S for solo guitars. And then, so this is my guitar, AC guitar, guitars, acoustic.
One possibility is Village Music World on Bleecker Street. Want to try that one?
Why are you, Siri, stop. Why? No more Siri. That's annoying. Oh man, and you messed me up. I missed this person who's like spamming our set here. Siri, ban. Unless anybody wants to become famous in Russian. What are you talking about, Caden? Those are not bots. Those are humans. They're humans. Also, when creating your groups right now, what's going on with that? Well, the reason I'm creating these groups is so you can, here, check this out. Here, acoustic guitars, boom, boom, boom. Staffo, what's up? Staffo, you're like an hour late. I know you can be better than an hour late, Staffo. I know you can do better. All right, yeah, totally mistaken, man. Totally mistaken. Not bots at all. All right, so the reason why I'm doing so many groups right now is because these acoustic guitars, see what happens? They're actually, I can have them like this, but then I can have these two here separated out because these are stereo left right, and you'll know that when you listen to the song. I know it because I've listened to the song like a million times. So I'm gonna show you that here in just a second. I'm just kind of getting stuff grouped together, and then our guitars, solo, harmony, double, double, double. Okay, so my solo guitars are over here. I'm gonna make one more subgroup for these. Guitar solo group. There we go. And all these are gonna go into my guitar solo group. Shift and Option. Oh, you just got your learner's permit. Dope. But please tell me about that next time. How'd you get a thing? I have a whole story for you guys in Zoom. I'm not going to record my story because it's embarrassing, but it's funny. So definitely worth it. Guitar solo group. There we go. Boom. There we are. Okay, so everything's going to that. Solo safe. Now all these here, let's call this one, I'm going to Command G, and we're going to call this one solo guitars. ID is going to be S for solo. There we go. Bloop. And I don't remember which one of these need to be grouped together, but grouping is the type of thing that you really just need to practice it. And you'll make a lot of changes as you go through grouping stuff. But there's not like really wrong answers to grouping. It's really your thing. It's a personal thing. So these are just suggestions what I'm doing right now. All right, so I got my guitars here. Let me just go ahead and let's listen to this solo here, this end part. Whoa, 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 solo. There you Oh, you had an online test. Nice. So Tony says you don't get lost with all these subgroups. Well, no, because most of the time you're not really paying attention to all these subgroups. Well, so actually, okay. So are you talking about subgroups? Or are you talking about Pro Tools groups? And here's the tricky part for people who are learning this stuff: is that subgroups and Pro Tools groups are different things. Pro Tools groups means that I can grab these and move them. A subgroup means that these are being channeled through this group right here. Let me go ahead and change the color on that. So the answer is, to your question, when you are first starting off about this and you're learning this, because what I'm teaching right now is not beginner stuff. This is more advanced stuff. And I don't expect you to understand it right now. I expect you to just go along with me and say, yes, okay, cool. And you're gonna get it as we go through it, because you gotta practice this. You're gonna have to practice this stuff. Let me just change the color on this guitar part here. Boop, boop, boop. We can make it, let's make it this color here. Well, that's the same color as the other ones. Oh, whatever, we'll just make it the same color as the other ones. And this one here, boom, okay. So to answer your question is that it actually makes your mix easier to deal with the subgroups. The subgroups it makes it easier to deal with your mix, but the setup, like I said, it takes a little bit of time, especially when I'm explaining it and stopping and starting and stopping and starting. My advice is rewatch this video. My advice is do some research about subgroups. My advice is ask me questions about it, okay? But you're gonna have to ask me questions after you've tried doing it yourself. Like, I expect you to have a hard time with this because it's hard. This is not beginner stuff. This is more advanced stuff. But this is our last day of Pro Tools, so I have to teach it to you, all right? Usually, we'd be getting this in week 5, but everything would be spread out a little bit more. But the Pro Tools groups, no, it's not. It doesn't make it more confusing because now I can just grab this and grab this. If I didn't have these in Pro Tools groups, every single thing that I'm dealing with here, like, what is that, my bridge? Every single thing I'd be dealing with, I had to move this one, then I had to move this one, then I had to move that one, and I had to move that one. So it's nice to have these two things grouped together because I don't necessarily need to affect these individually as a group here, but I can, I do need to control the levels to get together. All right, so what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna mute my vocals. And all my instrument tracks are gonna have these go into an instrument group. We're gonna put the instrument group over here at the end. New aux channel, stereo aux channel. And I'm gonna call this one instrument group, like that. And this one, let's just take a look at this. All my aux channels that I just made, all of these aux channels, we're gonna go ahead, oops, not that one. All these instrument ones, and we're gonna send these down to our instrument group here. So I'm gonna highlight them over here by holding down Command and clicking them. Click on this arrow key here. I'm gonna go show only selected tracks. So now we just have these ones here. I'm gonna show my instrument group as well. So now I've got all these aux tracks that I just made. These are the ones I just made. And all of these need to go to this instrument group. So I'm gonna highlight them, hold down Option and Shift, click on the output for one of them and go to Track, Instrument Group, and now they're all going to my instrument group. So if I go back and let's just show my vocals as well. So here's all my groups I'm listening to. So my vocals are muted here, and I could just go through and now I can just listen to individual things. Right, so that's my drums. The drums sound horrible, so I would want to work on the mix for my drums. Go in here, I got my drums, and we're going to talk about that in just a bit, but we're going to stop right there for a second. I'm going to go ahead and stop this recording.